I'm now going to bring in Brian Smith. Brian Smith is the branch secretary of Glasgow City Unison and has been involved for a number of years now in that capacity, speaking here today. So reiterate that, Brian.
Thanks very much, Claire. Thanks for the invitation to speak today. I don't think there's any meeting we can have talking about fighting the workplace in the wake of the referendum, which doesn't then recognise or spend a couple of minutes just thinking about the position and the view of the trade unions in relation to the referendum. The trade unions that took a position of a no vote were wrong in two reasons. One, they ended up on the wrong side of the most militant bits of the working class, which the trade union movement should never do that, but also more criminally, and this is why the points that Cheryl Gedler made about us not are absolutely as a warning to them. See, when you take positions in a leadership at a UK level or Scottish level, you don't consult your members. That is where democracy and the trade unions will lead you in relation to national membership and falling. Within Glasgow, within Unison and Unite and all the other Labour affiliated unions, in the immediate period, days after the referendum, we were inundated with members phoning and saying, evacuate the Labour Party. See, as a branch secretary for the last 5 years in Glasgow, I've probably had maybe about 100 people have asked me that question over the 5 years. There was about 200 asked me the question in 2 days after the referendum. But fortunately, because of Unison's position in relation to the political fund, you can still be politically active and politically campaign within Unison and keep your money in the Labour Party. But more importantly, I think that we managed to stop anybody really resigning from Unison in Glasgow, because we, for the last 10 years, have had a position in Unison of calling for disaffiliation from the Labour Party. And when that was explained to members were then clear that I understand there's dynamics within the trade union movement and the branches fighting against leaderships that are not necessarily in their interest. And I think that's a key point, because a number of the meetings that I've did over the referendum period and the post-referendum period, understandably, loads of young people have said, that's very good, Brian, but what have the trade unions ever done for me? And there's a mood about that, and you can completely understand that position from young workers and people who are unemployed. My daughter almost asking the same question as well in relation to that. So it's across the board, and the trade unions have got a responsibility to step up and become what they are, as the big democratic organisations of the working class. And it's meetings like this that are important, and meetings across Scotland to try and make sure that as we've used the guest vote, because many, if not most, trade union members in Scotland probably voted yes. If you look at the way the vote was done, there's not many polls about trade union members, but just who you talk to in the workplace, where the vote was coming from, I would be fairly confident to say that probably a majority of trade union members in Scotland probably voted yes. So on that basis, we've got as a trade union movement orientate to that, and then use that momentum in relation to some of the points that Ian's made here about trying to change society. Local activity is absolutely crucial, which is what the theme of the workshop today is about. However, national action and political representation are also important, and I want to say just a wee bit about that later on. In relation to our branch in Glasgow, a couple of the points that Ian's made there, we've been involved in a number of disputes over the last 5 or 6 years against Glasgow City Council. I think I was trying to make this one, I think it's 10 official disputes we've actually been involved in the last 4 or 5 years, involving thousands of workers with all sections in the level of education, 1,000 workers, social work, 400 workers, 100 workers here, 100 workers there, people working in Glasgow Life, and also in the colleges. A dispute about privatisation within further education in one of the colleges in Glasgow a couple of years ago as well. Some of those disputes were won, some of the disputes were drawn, and a couple of them were lost. But the point being is that we've tried as a branch in Glasgow to try and at least say to members, see if you want to fight, the local branch will then support you and will encourage you to do that. And I think all local branches across the trade union movement need to do that. And we are in a good position in Glasgow where we do have a range of activists and people within the branch who are campaigning on the same basis and have that similar approach. So in that sense, that has been helpful. Over the period as well, over the last 4 or 5 years, we've also tried to do as much as possible to link up with local communities. round about the Defend Glasgow Services campaign. Folk will probably see those red posters, which we've used for years. There's a bit of a funny story because they're all over our windows in Bell Street in the Salt Market, and they've been really, really good in the last 4 or 5 years. And the run up to the referendum, as you can see, particularly if you've a few pints, it looked as if maybe the Unison branch was supporting a no vote. We had a few independent stickers stuck over the windows, as I think people were saying. Didn't quite read the full thing. We knew that we'll post that, hopefully people will see that. But it's important in terms of the point I made at the beginning there, about the trade unions also orientating towards local communities. So the idea of working with carers, people who use the services in social work language, parents, school students, and also we are involved in trying to support as best we could. Basically the resources to some extent, the Anti-Bedroom Tax Federation in Glasgow in terms of buses and meeting rooms and just practical stuff that the trade union can provide. The activists come in and do all the work, the trade union branches can provide a bit of resources for people. I think that's absolutely important. In relation to the Glasgow situation and about the council in Glasgow, Claire's mentioned herself there, and Claire has been victimised as a trade union activist. She was too modest to probably put herself in that position, and she was chairing to explain what's happened to her. Claire's clearly been victimised as a trade union activist, and the branch are fully supportive of Claire, and we'll be representing her next Monday. We've got a good case. Of course, we've got a good case because she's been victimised. The trick, of course, is to try and embarrass 3 or 2 Labour councillors and 1 SNP councillor to actually reinstate her, and we'll do the best we can in that. So I know that Claire has been appreciative of the support that's came through from different individuals outside the branch. I just wanted to reiterate in terms of the branch's position in relation to supporting Claire over the last period of time. But in Glasgow, we have had a position where the branch, and we've managed to get the other 2 trade unions in a similar position, although sometimes don't hold it as well as we'd like to, of trying not to do what we would describe as concession bargaining. There's a big debate within the public sector, particularly in Scotland, about should the trade unions trade off wages, terms and conditions to save jobs? Should they trade off? We don't find privatisation because we'll save people in relation to protecting their wages when they transfer. At a very early stage within Unison, we adopted a position we try not to do that, and we wouldn't do that. I mean, that doesn't mean every job has been saved, because of course there has been. There's been 50,000 jobs in Scotland have been lost across councils in the last number of years. But the key point is, see concession bargaining, there's 2 points. You don't get any more at the end of the battle, as far as we're concerned. You fight them as much as you can. You win stuff, you lose stuff, you draw stuff. But see, at the end of it, you're more likely to have more people standing, maybe too militaristic in terms of the analogy. But you're likely to have more soldiers at the end of that than you had at the start of it if you don't actually concede. And the second thing that's linked to it, you demobilise the members. You demobilise the members and you say, well, we're not going to fight them in that because that's not that important. Members' law rights and living standards are not that important. That's fine. Right, but if you fight for a job now, you didn't fight in that, and it all becomes then just a demobilisation of people. So just because you say that you're not going to do concession bargaining doesn't mean you save everything. But what it does is it keeps the idea that we for no cuts. Because the fundamental point of the idea of concession bargaining is the trade union movement accepting what the Labour Party accepts is we should have slightly slower cuts, slightly nicer cuts, as long as they're our cuts. And some people within the trade unions at a Scottish and UK level have clearly adopted that position over the last period of time. Glasgow City Council tried to, in the wake of the Commonwealth Games, get us to discuss with them something which was right about concession bargaining, which was a bit of a laugh actually, considering they had just had us in the court a session over whether we were taking strike action about payments that the museum workers were getting to work during the Commonwealth Games, and that a shameless bunch. The Glasgow Labour Council, they did raise that with us, as you can imagine, that hasn't been anywhere, and it certainly won't go anywhere in terms of our branch. The Scottish and the UK context is crucial, because the fight in the workplace, getting stewards elected, getting activists motivated, making sure members know that we're on their side, that we're not compromising with the cuts and with austerity, all absolutely crucial. And that means that there'll be sporadic individual disputes flying about all over the place, as there has been across Scotland and the UK. But the crime has been, in my view, is that there's no equity in the leadership, either at a Scottish or a UK level, to actually say we're really going to resist these cuts. We're actually going to take the Tories on. We're going to get them to move from austerity or indeed bring them down. And see that there hasn't been a generalised strike in the UK in the last 5 years. That is a crime of our union leadership, of the TAC, of the STUC, and by the way, particularly the leader of Unison. Dave Prentice is probably the worst union leader in the UK. We need to campaign in Unison the next time who's up for election to get a united candidate that we actually can move Unison at a UK level into something which looks a bit more like the PCS leadership, a bit more like the RMT leadership, a bit more like some of the other trade unions who have elected socialist type leaders. Because the whole issue of the Labour Party is now becoming critical in Scotland. The referendum, in my view, is probably the final nail in the last coffin of a hell of a long funeral about the Labour Party in Scotland in relation to working class people. I know everybody has made speeches and rooms like this for the last 10 years. This is the final nail in the coffin of the Labour Party. I'll make a new party, da-da-da-da-da. There was something different at the moment. There's something clearly different. The hostility and the animosity towards the Scottish Labour Party is unprecedented. And that is where the issue of the SNP is coming in, I'll come on to that, but the Labour Party in terms of representation of working class people is dead. I think the trade union leaders who are arguing to reclaim the Labour Party need to say, right, that's finally finished, let's move on to that, because that is not a strategy which is then going to work. Because the trade union leaders set a tone, which means that local branches can't always fight back the way they should. Because if they don't set the tone that I was describing there, it lets the worst of the lay leaders in some of the branches across Scotland and places like Unison, United and the GMB off the hook. Because it means you don't organise local campaigns and you say, well, the National Union will do nothing about it. So it becomes a bit corrosive, which means as activists we want to be active within the unions to make sure that we actually change that. The issue of the political representation has got to be viewed alongside the fight in the workplace, in my opinion. We have suffered as a class, as a trade union movement, in the last period of time of having no socialist or working class representation either in Glasgow City Council or within the Scottish Parliament. It makes a big difference, and that's not an argument only for electoral politics. You've got to look at electoral politics being part of the strategy that we have as socialists. We fight in communities, we fight in the workplace, we've got to also fight in the political front. These things are going to be lined up together. And the trade unions are key in relation to that discussion which is going on. The points that Cheryl Gedlin made, I thought, in the opening preliminary, absolutely correct. We've got to discuss now the idea of political representation for working class people. We can't wait. I don't think I agree with Bob Thompson for Labour Party for Independence. I don't think we're going to reform the SNP. I think the people who have joined the SNP are looking for a change. And as we've all seen in this meeting today, we're probably going to be disappointed very, very quickly. But the idea that people are joining stuff means that there is an opportunity that we've never had before. We've got to get that forward, and we're going to try and get people involved in relation to that. Because the SNP should have the demand put on them of don't make the cuts. We've always said in Glasgow Unison under that banner of no cuts, we'll work with any politician in the council who stands up and doesn't make the cuts. None of them have done that. We've had very, very perfunctory discussions with the Greens that they might have done that, but they never done it. They always just went through voting through some type of cuts. So we've got to still put those demands on politicians, but it can't be the only demands. And that was where I would differ from what we say earlier. We've got to then organise ourselves in relation to having independent representation. Because we need a pro-socialist voice in politics, a trade union. We need a trade union voice. And I would encourage people to come along to them on the 1st of November up at St Stephen's Church in Bar Street there. Trade unionists and socialists will come together and see what we can do. There may have been a slight setback because of some of the comments that some people have made in relation to voting for the SNP. But there's still hundreds and thousands of people, hundreds and thousands of people who are interested in the idea of political representation for working class people. So we've got to do it. We've got to make it forward and try and build something like that over the next period of time. Because there was a working class revolt in Scotland during the referendum in relation to people being energized. The situation is completely transformed, and as the left and the socialists and as trade unionists, we've got to make sure that we get in round about that, and and try and build something with that huge mass anger. So it's everything in politics and trade union movements. Strategy and tactics is very, very important, but strategy and tactics become absolutely critical when you've actually got people to talk to about it, which is what we've really got, is a huge mass of people who want to get involved in politics. And in that sense, then, it's a great opportunity, and it's an absolute fantastic opportunity for people on the left to get involved in actually building something that will really, really change our society, so that we don't need to fight over, is my holidays getting cut, is my wages getting cut by 1%, or get a slight wage rise. We actually build something that's really going to change Scotland, and really going to then have what most of us would want, which is a truly socialist orientated society. And that's the vision we should have. And it is achievable. We can build something new, and it's very, very unusual in the last 20 years that we've got that position in Scotland. So we should be inspired by what's happening, and we should all make sure we're involved in our workplaces, in our communities, that we're going to be involved in political